Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the Series 11 story Demons of the Punjab, written by Vinil Patel and is directed by Jamie Childs. This story is a historical story, which is a pseudo-historical story, should I say, featuring like aliens and stuff. But like the previous historical story, Rosa in Series 11, this story is much more focused on putting our characters in the past in a historical setting and is more interested in the characters in that element, learning new things in that environment, meeting up with the characters in this timeline, and just exploring the time it is. Much more in line with the most pure historicals from the right early 60s, or at least the mid 60s of Doctor Who, with the first Doctor, especially. And this story reminds me a lot of that, but also this is the first story which was written by someone. This Rosa was written by a person of colour, but this is the first story which was solely written of a person of colour in Doctor Who's history. I know it's a shame that it's taken so long, especially when there's so many great people of colour writers out there in the industry. But if there's anybody who's going to take the mantle as the first solo writer, Mary Blackman, who wrote Rosa, was the first person of colour to write for Doctor Who, but she had a co-writing credit with Chris Chibnall. This is the first time where the writing credit is on its own. Vinil Patel is mostly known for his BBC show. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. Not My Father or something like that. Dealing with the lives of I believe it's a Muslim family in Britain, and it was very popular. It won him many awards, and he was brought on to Doctor Who to deal with a particular historical event, the partition of India. Essentially, British was ruling over India for so many years, and then after World War II, basically India decided that they want independence, and so Britain did this by not only just giving them their freedom, but also kind of trying to subjugate them by taking certain lands or to Pakistan, turning them into Pakistan, shall we say, into Pakistan heritage, and the borders clashed different cultures and different societies, and essentially separating religions as if they are what make people, and people focus more on their differences than what combines them. And so there was a bloody conflict between many different people with many different backgrounds, all clashing together on who has the right to live in India and who has the right to live in Pakistan, the East and the West Pakistan, which was, from what I can remember on the maps, they're on each side. India's in the middle, and Pakistan, East Pakistan and West Pakistan. I don't really know. I'm not very good at geography, and I might get my historical facts wrong there. I do not know. That's the best that I'm. That's my information. That's where I'm led to believe. Anyway, if I'm wrong, please comment down in the comments to let me know. This story also is another story which seems to focus heavily on Yaz. Yaz is a character which, apart from her first appearance so far, hasn't really grabbed me. Most of her scenes in these stories, she's been the character that gets pushed to the sidelines to ask the questions, to be the shoulder to cry on so other characters can relay information and reveal character depth in them, not really her. Even the story which has her mother as one of the main protagonists, Arachnids in the UK, she was kind of set into the sidelines of sorts. But here, she's actually the instigator into the story. Essentially, in the start of the story, we see Yaz with her family, and she's meeting her nanny, Umbred, and she basically talks to him about giving him stuff from her history, because she's very old and she's passing things along. She passes Yaz's mother's letters, if I remember correctly. I can't remember what she gives Yaz's sister. But to Yaz, she gives her a broken watch, which means a lot to her. She also mentions that she is the first woman to get married in Pakistan, to which completely blew away Yaz, and is completely like baffled by this. And so she asks the Doctor to travel back in time to using a telepathic circuit to connect when the TARDIS will meet up with the moment the watch was cracked. The Doctor reluctantly agrees. She doesn't really put much of a fight. There's a big criticism with this story where the Doctor should have known better. This is a story, this is an idea that the Doctor has dealt with. Best known, probably in the greatest example, is the story Father's Day, where the Doctor takes Rose into the past to meet her father that's about to die. I do think the context of it is a bit different. In Rose, is Rose in contact? It was to meet her father as he was about to die, and that's a big emotional hook. The Doctor might have felt here with Yaz that the context of it differ enough that she was still allowed to do this. She did have this doubt, as she does say later on in the episode. It's like, I knew we would start interfering, and Yaz will try and get into questions. We'll open risks into the timeline. But I think the difference here is that because the Doctor knows that Yaz's grandmother does survive and seemingly is completely fine, didn't think there was much of a risk that anything time traveling escapades would travel on into the episode. And so the characters go to Pakistan, or at least what will become Pakistan, and the shot, I can't remember where this episode was filmed, whether it was actually filmed in Pakistan or was subjugated for another place. They just look absolutely beautiful. And what I really like about the story is that it looks nothing like any Doctor Who story before. You still get the feeling in Series 11 that the TARDIS has the ability to go anywhere in any place. One of the big down factors to the revived era is that Doctor Who usually has a few locations that they go. Modern day Earth, historical stories, which is usually like in a wood or like an old fashioned house, which is clearly like a British cottage or something. When they set in the future, they rarely meet they ever go to a planet. It's always like a spaceship, a spaceport of some sort with lots of narrow tunnels and stuff. But this would have been great for like a big screen. The scenery, the directing by Jamie Child really brings out the essence into the narrative. Now, one of the things I do criticize of this story is that throughout the first half of the episode, the Doctor gets these painful visions, and it's never really explained why the aliens of this episode do that, give the Doctor these visions. Maybe she can feel something in time, but surely if she can feel something in time and the aliens are distorting it of some sort, which we later learn isn't really the case, surely she would be aware of it. Like, if these creatures were trying to hide, why would they send the Doctor's visions? It felt really odd. One thing with this episode as well that I don't like, and it's something which does play out throughout Series 11, but here I do think it's a prominent example of it, is Series 11's use of dialogue. There is a lot of dialogue. There is so much talking. There's so many scenes where characters are just like, oh look, it worked. Oh look, we're going to do this and they're doing that. Like, we can see. We have eyes. We're watching an episode. Luckily for me, I'm used to audio dramas in Doctor Who, so I'm kind of used to the more narrative talking of an episode. But it is something I do see, like, other people would watch this and be like, they're so annoying, the dialogue, everyone's constantly talking. It's something that Series 11 issues as a whole. But certain episodes, especially this one, I do feel it's stronger than others. However, the story does make it up by bringing us a lot of great character beats and character moments, especially towards Yaz. This is a really great foundation for Yaz as a character, who starts to learn more about her family. They meet up with a man named Prem, played by Shane Zaza. And he seems like this nice bloke who seems to be a flower merchant. And he's kind of wary at something that's happening around at the time. There's a really weird... There's some scenes which are like strange, but really stick out in my head. The doctor and crew get with him or so they can meet Umbrid, who he appears to know. And there's this holy man who's walking, and he's just like, it's fine, I will walk. Look at all you young people always rushing. To which Prem is just like, yeah, but if I'm late, Umbren is going to kill me for missing an important her wedding. To which the characters are completely stunned by the fact that they are not only at the time where the clock seems to be cracked, but also seemingly going to Yaz's grandmother's wedding. But that scene where Prem takes them away, and the doctor's just looking at the holy man, and the holy man's just standing there, and that music, Segan Akinola's music, which is very inspired by that Indian and Pakistani heritage. It's just so beautiful. I really wish that they just released an entire CD dedicated to Demons of the Punjab. And at the start of the episode, after they leave the old man and he seemingly gets killed, they meet up with Umbren, who reveals to them that she is getting married. Of course, they hide the fact that they're excited to see her by saying that they're like distant. At least Yaz has a distant relationship to Umbren. Umbren here, the young Umbren is played by Amita Suman, and they meet up and they blah, 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 and Umbren basically reveals that she is getting married, but she's getting married to Prem. And this completely confuses Yaz because she's never heard of Prem before. She knows who her grandfather is. She's seen pictures. It's not this man. And what's really strange is that Yaz doesn't know anything about this, as Umbren's a Muslim and Prem is Hindu. And this kind of has this divide in the family. We also meet that with Umbren's mother, Yaz's great-grandmother. I can't remember her name or who plays her, but we also meet Prem's brother, Manish, played by Hamza Jatuza, who is he is a part of the Hindu religion, who kind of basically believes that this marriage between Hindu and Muslim is cursed, and so does Umbren's mother. And there is this kind of political allegory here of like dividing, and this marriage, this marriage that they're going to get is the combination of love and appreciation for one another, and the things that we should focus on the things that we love, the things that we combine us, apart from separating us throughout the episode. And seemingly the demons, creatures, the alien creatures that appear to be demons, to which Prem has met before, appear throughout the episode. And even though they are basically part of the sci-fi element of the story, they're not really the main focus. In fact, they're not even really the main villains. The villain is the oncoming danger of the partition and the historical event, mainly that Yaz does not know who Prem is, so they suspect that something horrible must happen to him, or at least affect him and Umbridge's relationship in a way. And it's something that really deeply affects Yaz to a degree. And there's a lot of, I've heard a lot of reviews on this that really misinterpret this scene. With she talks to Graham, and Graham is basically telling Yaz, your grandmother is allowed to have secrets. Maybe it's something that really hit her personally. Maybe it's something, really affects the family or something, but you know, she should tell it the way that she should, and you should be okay with that. And also the things that we're doing, the things I think it's amazing, we should like come together, and it's the things, the small things that bind us. This whole story has a theme of love and dedication to one another. That might sound similar to another famous story in historical. Loads of people misinterpret this story as a story where Yaz learns that she has Hindu heritage or something, that she's not 100% Muslim, whatever that means, which is completely wrong. She's not shocked by the fact that, you know, there's Muslims, that her grandfather could be Hindu. It's the fact that she didn't know about this, and one of the big factors on this relationship that people around them are struggling to do is that the mix of religions. But two people who love each other and despite all odds will get married despite them coming from different backgrounds, who at this moment in time, thanks to the partition of India, seem to hate, or at least get really divided across with each other. It's Romeo and Juliet. Doctor Who has tackled many kinds of stories before. Dracula, Frankenstein, you know, King Lear. Doctor Who does King Lear like all the time. With other classic stories of formats like bus stories, diplomatic stories, sci-fi operas, proper like swashbuckling historical adventures. But Doctor Who has never done like a romantic Romeo and Juliet story before. It's something that's so unique. And the story handles it so well. I like how you generally see the torment in Prem. And he really doesn't understand where the Doctor and the companions come from. But it all, like, he kind of clicks together. Let's talk about the aliens for a moment. This is probably the weakest aspect of the story. There is a point to them. There is a reason for them that makes it so it's just like, why didn't they just make this pure historical? I do think that the story would have been 1,000 times better if it was a pure historical. However, we essentially learn that from the Doctor that these are a race called the Thajarans, a race of deadly assassins from the dawn, almost from the dawn of time. And the Doctor's never encountered these before, but she's heard the myths and legends of them. And she just confused what they're doing in partition Pakistan and partition India. And they generally believe that they killed the holy man, and they get into the ship and they find this substance which they seemingly rubbed over the holy man, and the Doctor takes them away, takes the materials away, and fights these creatures. But we later learn throughout the episode that it's not all as it seems. These aren't actually killers, not anymore anyway. They are actually now a peaceful race that witness the deaths of people who have been forgotten about. This is in line with the fact that despite the partition being a massive event in history, especially from outside of the areas infected, Britain, because it was Britain that basically started partition, and a lot of people became refugees and headed to Britain. So it has a huge effect in British history, which is probably why it was a great target for a Doctor Who story. But it's something that we don't talk about, at least in Britain anyway. I never learned about the partition of India in school. In fact, the first time I've ever heard about it was from when this story was being announced, and I had to read up what it was about. And that plays into the message of the story. But there's so many great. I really like when the Doctor interacts with these villains, and she's got that venomous spit that Jodie Whittaker can only bring, where she's pushing her head forward, and you can see it in her face. She's really just full of venom. But when she basically realizes what's going on, which, by the way, the villain's plan, the alien's plan, I should say, is exactly the same from Twice Upon a Time. But this story does it like 1,000 times better, and actually has a reason like a purpose in the narrative. Basically, what I really like about this scene is that the Thajarans have this kind of prayer. They hold their hands like that to commemorate the dead. And when the Doctor realizes like they're not bad guys, she does it as well. And she's like, "I'm sorry," without like anything mentioned. Brilliant piece of acting. I don't know if that was Jamie Childs, if that was in the Vidil Patel's script, or if that was Jodie Whittaker's performance, but I really like that small moment. There's a lot of great small moments in this story. When the Doctor goes back and tells the team that this, she basically knows what's going to happen. This is the day that Prem dies. And she actually knows what happens to the Holy Man, though she doesn't lead it up now at this moment. And our characters basically keep to themselves that the Prem's going to die. They have basically like a stag party between the boys and the girls. The Doctor mentioned, and probably one of the few times in actual series 11 where she mentions a gender where they have these Tana tattoos, and she points out like, "I've never done this when I was a man." And there's a great moment where like Yaz is just like, "You and your jokes," and the Doctor basically realizes like these women are not going to be like knowledgeable in like these kind of things. So she's just like, "Yeah, my bodily identification and gender roles are completely in jest." I'm such a comedian. I love that line. I absolutely love that line. But I really like it from the men's point of view. It's a bit awkward because Manish, Prem's brother, doesn't want the wedding to happen. In fact, he feels like it's betraying him, betraying their Hindu heritage. Like Pakistan, I can't remember like what's what if the Muslims have Pakistan, Hindu get India in the partition, in the ideas of partition, and Manish feels betrayed by his brother Prem. We learned like, earlier on in the episode that they did have an older brother, but during the war, the oldest brother was killed, which Prem bore witness, and he actually saw the Thajarans for the first time, which was why he wasn't shocked earlier on in the episode. And there's that whole betrayal, and you feel that kind of building up. At the wedding, there's an absolute great speech by the Doctor about love. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's probably, again, one of my favourite, along with the scientific speech in the Taranga Conundrum, it's probably one of my favourite 13th Doctor moments. I love it. I love Jodie Whittaker's speeches. They're never like previous Doctors where it's them like intimidating the bad guys or trying to make a massive point to the villains of some sort. Jodie Whittaker's speeches are all about like her like basically like a teacher like having a lesson from her. And this is a great example where she basically is the one to marry Prem and Umbren, and she gives a speech about love, and it's like there's one, my religion is hope, and you are the definition of hope and love on this planet, maybe even the universe. And it's a great symbolism. I like how she uses a sonic to destroy the barrier that Manish brought up to separate in the partition. And Umbridge uses that rope to do a Hindu wedding tradition of wrapping the arms with the rope, to which Yaz does the wrapping for. And in return, Prem does a Muslim wedding tradition of giving her, I can't remember the name, but he basically hands her a gift so that she can keep for all of her like life, which is the watch. However, the watch falls and it breaks, and that's the context of the scene at start, which is a great metaphor, because in the context of Prem and Umbren, the watch basically signifies that time is frozen and this is their moment. This wedding, that watch now signifies their wedding, their love in this moment, this time. However, for the rest of the characters, especially our TARDIS team, from Umbren's mother. So let's play that back. From Umbren's mother and Manish's point of view, the watch can also kind of signify that this is broken. This is the moment of no return, where they're essentially cursed by bringing these two cultures together, and there's no going back. The time has broken. There's no going back. We just everything is shattering. And from the Doctor, Yaz, Graham, and Ryan's point of view, it's the signification that this is it. This is the final moments of Prem's life, and this is the essentially from this point on. There's nothing more that they can essentially gain. They know everything. They know all the information they need. Time has basically stopped in terms of what they can achieve, what they can produce in the situation, and fate has finally caught up with them as they hear bandits and soldiers from the distance coming closer to their hut. And the Doctor basically reveals in front of to Manish that she knows that he killed the Holy Man. Manish was the one who killed the Holy Man, and he's actually bringing Hindu soldiers into their small little, a village, farm, whatever it is, and they need to basically run. But Prem decides that he's going to try and buy them some time by talking to his brother in the hopes to get into him, as his brother seemingly has been radicalized. And the Doctor takes Umbren and helps her escape. To which later on the Doctor, Yaz, Graham, and Ryan look on to see Prem turn into his brother, and is completely he knows that there's no getting to his brother, but he desperately tries. And Sean Zaza's performance is phenomenal in these scenes, as well as working with Hamza Jitua. Both brilliant actors. And that scene where the Thajarans come and it's we will bear witness, you can go now. And the Doctor and the TARDIS team walk off, and you can hear the shot in the background signifying Prem's death. Really does hit hard. I broke into tears when I first saw this, and it always hits me every time. And the story ends with Yaz going back to her home, and is basically just talking to her grandmother. It's the things you've seen, the world, the places you have gone, and you decide to come into London, into Yorkshire, Sheffield. This is absolutely mad. And her grandmother basically is I will never change. I would never change it. It brought me to your great grandfather. It brought me to your mother and to you and your sister. And I will tell you about the watch if you want me to. And Yaz decides to, no, maybe another time when you feel ready. Don't force it because of me. You tell me the story, this painful story of yours, when you feel like it. And the story ends with the credits rolling, and instead of the traditional Doctor Who theme, it's actually a Indian, Pakistani inspired rendition of the theme, which is really strange, and I don't know if it really works with the credits, but I do like the idea of it, and I do actually like the cover. It just felt a bit strange with the really sci-fi title sequence, title credits, and also it plays over the next time trailer, which is again really odd when you consider what the next episode is. But anyway, that's Demons of the Punjab. Overall, this is probably one of the best stories in Doctor Who. It deals with so much, it has so much theme, so much ideas, but what it's focused on is love, and it focuses on our characters, and it really shines. It gives Yaz something to do. Maybe in this story, Ryan really has the short end of the stick. Brian does get sidelined majority. However, he still still get some great humour because Bragley Walsh is just so charming and so lovable. And Jodie Whittaker has some really great scenes here and some really great moments. And the twist of the aliens aren't actually the villains. Though, again, I do really feel like this story would have been so much better as a full-on historical. And as well, the dialogue, which is an issue with most of Series 11, is overly written with a lot of dialogue. But apart from that, if you can get away past from those two elements, that it's a pseudo-historical and there's a lot of dialogue, this story is, like, phenomenal. It's probably one of the best Doctor Who stories out. It's easily, like, it's one of the best Doctor Who stories. I know a lot of people who consider this their favourite 13th Doctor story, and you can easily see why. There's so much emotion, depth, the inspiration of Romeo and Juliet. It's really mature way of handling this real world historical event where millions died and suffered, but it mainly focuses on the love and appreciation of two people from different backgrounds during a time when those backgrounds seem more apart than any. Just that's what Doctor Who is all about. It's all about these kind of stories, and I'm all here for it. And Demon of the Punjab is probably one of my favourites. Like, so far it's easily the best in terms of Series 11, as far as we're talking about. Like, no question asked. So anyway, that's Demons of the Punjab. So join me next time when the Doctor challenges her greatest enemy once more. The corporations! Ah! As they take on a Amazon-inspired bad guys. Or maybe they're not. We will find out. So join me next time for Kablam. And I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra.